trade too well into those.
Yeah,
but
turns
we'll
out O2 healing totems, not good against a barrier of 1-5 beetles. But heading into game one, Ostkaka on the Shutterwalk Shaman, Prince Keliseth in hand.
And Wilskar definitely was not joking before when he said that players are very divided on Shutterwalk Shaman being good. Skaka and Muzzy gave it the thumbs up. They said it's the best. Some other players just said, no, it's the worst. And we'll see here. It's definitely a good matchup here for the Shutterwalk Shaman. A lot of times they could just rely on things like Volcano and then healing up with Healing Wave.
Ooh. Going for the Coin Cold Blood, probably into the dagger, I'm assuming. Pushing as much damage as quickly as possible. I actually like this play and I dislike this play because Ostkaka is running only one copy of the Earthshock, which is the obvious punish here. But even if he does do that, Earthshock's really the only play, along with a totem, and then he's free to play one of his 3-drops. And so with the Alkali to Pain coming down, one of these 3-drops is very likely to just run rampant.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times as the Odd Rogue, you just have to go as fast as possible, try and push through as much damage as you can before something like Volcano comes out. If you could find yourself in that position where you're threatening lethal, maybe with a Leroy when they have to Volcano, that's the spot when you actually win the game. If you give Shutterwalk Shaman a little bit too much time, they're just going to be able to piece their cards together, especially when you see that Prince Keliseth come down onto. Every single minion that comes down is just going to be way bigger than it's supposed to be.
Approximately 1-1 bigger than it's supposed to be.
That's not true. What about Chain Gang?
It's 1-1 bigger than it's supposed to be.
That's 2.
Yeah, it makes it. They're both 1-1 bigger than they're supposed to be.
So Skaka had the option of maybe digging with that Acolyte before he goes for that play, but he's just going to decide to hold it there, knowing that this Chain Gang likely stops a lot of damage here.
Yeah, definitely don't want to trade in the Alkali to Pain just because you do have the Volcano coming up next turn, which is a very likely play. And you want to get as much draw off this Alkali to Pain as possible. Ostkaka's hand's looking pretty good against the more aggressive decks like the Odd Rogue. We have the MC Tech, we have the Hex in case he wants to put another Cold Blood on this Argent Squire. Life Drinker to heal back up. But thankfully for Xixo, he does have this Mirror's Unstable Element, which is going to refill his hand real quick.
And this is going to feel so good for Ostkaka when you land that Volcano with the Acolyte of Pain on the board, drawing 3, clearing the board. That's just what you want to do, man.
We got Earthshock coming down a couple turns too late. Xixo also choosing to not play anything that turn. Just going for the dagger, not playing the Firefly, not playing the Dire Mold. Didn't want to play into any sort of AoE like the Volcano.
Yeah, he was definitely hoping for something like a Deckhand that turn, or maybe a Deadly Poison to push through one of the Chain Gangs without using both the minions to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for sure, Ostkaka just going to clear the board, draw some cards. Now it's going to be up to Ostkaka. It's going to be up to Xixo to try and refill this board. He doesn't really have great tools to do so.
2 Glacial Shards picked up for Ostkaka. Arguably the best card in the deck, I think, next to Prince Keliseth and Shutterwalk. It just does so much. Stops pressure, stops that dagger, creates bodies that you can trade in pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that. Just Shutterwalk Shaman in this matchup just wants to slow things down. They don't want to die instantly. If they could play that longer game, they usually are pretty good. And oh,
also
that is
they're 3/2s.
Buffed Chain Gang.
We got a buff Glacial, 2 of them, and a buff Chain Gang. This is something me and Admirable talked about over back in Oakland when we casted a lot of Shutterwalk games over there. We were struggling to classify what exactly Shutterwalk is. Because at first it was kind of just everyone considered a combo deck. But is it really truly a combo deck if your combo can fail? And then you start playing Prince. Now you have all these beefy minions in your deck and you're like, this kind of acts like a mid-range deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit funny because a lot of people say that it's good against the aggro decks, and it's also just a staple in anti-control, and I think that's part of the reason why people say it's so good. Mm-hmm. The other people that say it's bad just thinks that even those matchups that it's supposed to win, they don't think it's nearly as good as it's supposed to be in those matchups. But we do see that Xixo has the Myras, so he does have that refill when he does want it. It's a card that's very important in this matchup. It's always crazy to me that there's some players, I think I saw it in the Asia region, that just were not playing Myras. And that card is just unbelievable to me. There's so many matchups that you absolutely need it in. We saw how good it was against, say, an Odd Warrior, and especially against, you know, Hunter, even Warlock. Just the card's so good. How do you not play it?
There's a name for that in the business stuff, Bob. It's called wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
This card
Myras is insane.
It's very good. Who doesn't want to draw like 8 cards?
Or if you're just saying, 4 cards.
Oh yeah, you had to play that thing on curve.
That felt real bad. Also feels real bad. +3 health. No Wind Fury for Xixo. But Ostkaka down to 11.
But finding that healing rain off the top.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be very comfortable. Oh, yeah, you could always just heal for
24.
24. And 24 is pretty good.
He can heal for 24, develop a 4/4, and freeze the Vicious Fledgling in one turn. That seems pretty good to me.
Just imagine being Xixo. Just, you think like, oh, I just need like, say like a Leroy and a Cold Blood, and then I get there, and then boom, your opponent's just back at 30.
Boom.
Just like that.
Is that what Healing Rain sounds like?
All right, I'm convinced. Shutterwalk Shaman's the best.
Bob's on Team Good.
Oh yeah, look at this. He's going back up to 30. And I do want you to know that if he died instantly, I definitely would think that Shutterwalk Shaman was the worst. I would have agreed with all those players. It's very good to be results-oriented, always.
Especially in a card game. Going for not the Healing Rain option, going to go for the board-centric option. This is what I'm talking about. A standard control list would just be playing board clears and heals, but not
So he
Shutterwalk.
could potentially be dead here if there was Leroy Cold Blood Deckhand, I believe, would be an out for Xixo. So it's part of the reason I like just healing all the way back up.
He did already use both Cold Bloods.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, they were both in the starting hand. One he used on the Argent Squire, and one he used on the Firefly to
That's a good
proc the
point.
SI
So
agent.
I think that with this play, there's nothing. Even if it was just Leroy double deckhand, that would be one off there.
Yep.
So that's actually a really good call. Got to pay attention to exactly what cards are being played.
Xixo wisely playing his 1-drops before Myra's to draw as many as possible. 2 deadly poisons. Leroy, Bile Spine to punch through any sort of taunts that might come out. But I believe the Serenites are the only taunts in the deck. And so nothing to worry about there. They're just nice pieces of removal.
Yeah, I wonder if it's ever going to be the case where Xixo can, say, push through a board more than once in this position. Because we see that Ostkaka has access to that full heal, but he's not really working with any board clears in the hand. He needs to find, say, another copy of Volcano or one of those Lightning Storms. Or even Hagatha could make do here. But if he doesn't find something,
There's a lot.
then he needs to fight on board to win this game.
Hence why that Prince Keliseth is such a good card. We got Mind Control Tech. If he chooses not to trade in the deckhand, I think at this point you kind of have to... I think he can afford to trade it in just because we do have the 2 deadly poisons. We have a Fungal Mancer, we have Leroy. So we have a good amount of reach in the hand. But I think every point of damage is going to matter.
Always face, no matter what the situation is.
You guys saw what's written on the chalkboard. They know what the play is.
Especially playing Odd Rogue. If you're not hitting in the face, you're doing it wrong, man. But now Ostkaka has found that board clear with Lightning Storm, so he can just clear this up. And just keeping those minions on board is going to be such a headache for Xixo to try and deal with.
There's those totems we were talking about earlier. Taunt Totem, incredibly good. Arguably the best one.
All right, so we see the Healing Rain come out. Ostkaka is pretty okay going up to 21. Didn't feel that need to go all the way up to 30. And look at the fact that Xixo's just dying. I really like just the all-going face here from Ostkaka, realizing that he doesn't have the resources to play that long game right now. So if you go face, you just put them on a clock just with the fatigue.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. You know, you think it's a combo deck, you think there's a lot of card draw, Manatides, Farsights. He didn't get any of those, so he's like, all right, we're a mid-range deck now. I'm going to hit you in the deck with beefy minions. And so far it's working out. He has more health than Xixo. There's a Taunt Totem in the way. That gets rid of a lot of the reach.
It's definitely a fun concept that the aggro deck just has way more cards at the moment. Just staring at a full hand when the deck that's supposed to be playing the control game is just staring at 3.
Also, he kind of drew like the entire top end of his deck outside of the deadly poisons. A lot of 5s in that hand. It's going to be pretty clunky to play. He's never going to be able to play more than like 2 things a turn. And dude, this is just a rough board. He's 1 damage off lethal just on board. It's going to be hard to push through and trade stuff off. It feels terrible when you're the Odd Rogue and you're like, I have to kill a Life Drinker just to stay alive. I want to be hitting face.
Yeah, Xixo definitely wanted to go for, say, a Redagger and punch face with Deadly, but with the play that Ostkaka took, he now has to play that defensive game because he's just worried about not dying. Can't really afford to take any more damage.
I hear not dying's pretty good.
If you're dead, you probably can't win.
Also, I'm actually very surprised by what Xixo just did there. Choosing to conserve as much health as possible because he knows he's in fatigue right now. So he uses Dagger to take down the totem, and then traded the 3-1 into the 3-2.
And that's definitely him just doing the math of figuring out that that buys him an extra turn in the long run. And one extra turn is always going to be more useful than, say, the 3-1 on the board.
Yeah, he knows he's not going to end this in the next, like, 2 turns. And I think right now, unless miraculously he finds a way to heal, he's got a 4-turn clock, assuming he doesn't take any face damage.
I think that it's just going to be the case that Ostkaka is just going to die to this minion pressure coming out from Ostkaka. Just having this board of 4 minions is going to be a little bit too much to handle, especially with the case that we see that the Hex is in hand. So that's going to be able to deal with the Tar Creeper pretty nicely.
And how different does this game play out if Prince Keliseth isn't in the opening hand for Ostkaka? Fighting for board with minions would be a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. That buff is just so crucial, especially when it just hits the chain gang. That's just a win condition on its own. Prince into chain gang, you can do that in any deck, and that will steal wins.
And it feels good. Feels real good. I don't think there's any better feeling in the game than playing a buff chain gang.
Man, so Ostkaka, he just has the point where Xixo is trying to find that line where he could potentially set up 2-turn lethal with this Leroy. But I think he's just realizing that if he doesn't take another defensive line, he's just very likely to die this next turn.
Thinking Dagger, we got to get these deadly poisons online. I think that's numero uno. Dagger, deadly poison, Vile Spine maybe fight for board. Fungal, get more stats on the board. On the Tar Creeper.
I mean, you can't do the fungal if you're going for the Vile Spine, so I definitely like this. And now the big question is just, do you take the trade with the Glacial Shard? And I think you have to. So currently he's not dead to the Hex. Actually,
I think that was a slight misplay. I think the 1 damage is actually going to matter. Well, now there's Shudderwalk, so never mind. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was, with that Tar Creeper going face, puts his opponent down to 14. But and then next turn he can Leroy Fungal.
He would just be dead, though, to the Hex if he did not kill the 2-1. Yeah, I know. You have to sometimes
you gotta go for it.
But now, with Shudderwalk...
Yeah, so like I said, everything I said doesn't matter because Shudderwalk came off.
We're going to see a lot of Glacial Shards come out here. And they are going to
do a lot of stuff.
Freeze a good amount of the minions.
But yeah, so assuming this didn't happen, another 6 damage would have gone face, put his opponent down to 8, and then Leroy Fungal would have had enough reach. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened because we know what was in the hand of Ostkaka, but I feel like, you got to remember those because it would have been one off, and he wasn't fatiguing anytime soon. Extra 3 draws probably won him the game.
Do you know how much Odd Rogue we're going to see this weekend? And I'm okay with it. I feel like Odd Rogue, although sometimes the games can play a little bit similarly, you have a ton of decisions just because a lot of times you just see multiple green cards in your hand, and a lot of times these early game decisions will just affect the outcome of the game so much of the time.
Rogue is one of those interesting classes where something happens on turn 1. And it's either going to be that Baku coming out, or it's going to be that Quest appearing above Lyra's head.
Quest Rogue is dead. I'd like to think so.
We saw Rage go down with like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of thinking to myself, I went in this tournament, I was like, man, is Quest Rogue finally gone? Because that was making me happy. But then I saw it on stage, and I was like, maybe watching it lose is just even better than it being gone. I'm okay with Quest Rogue as long as it's just getting beat up like it did for Rage.
Right, and it wasn't. And you got to feel bad for Rage because that dude is a prodigy on Quest Rogue.
I don't feel bad at all. Kill all the Quest Rogue players in game.
But I think it's between him, Killing All Day, and Teray of Team Endemic, definitely the the 3 most prolific Quest Rogue players. And if they can't make it work, the deck's in bad straits.
Teray is a player that I would say 5 tournaments in a row he brought the same exact anti-control lineup with just super greedy decks, always having Shudderwalk Shaman, always having the Quest Rogue, and now he's here after the nerfs. That guy's playing aggro. He's hitting people in the face.
This doesn't feel right. That man brought 4/4 Quest Rogue to Oakland before anyone knew it was good, and then he won.
But now he's ready. He's ready to join the masses.
Trey was our last hope.
Is the place.
Ostkaka on the Death Rattle Hunter. Another deck we're expecting to see a lot of this weekend.
How do you feel about that Swamp King Dread?
I was about to say, Swamp King Dread, I don't understand why this card isn't good. It's a 7-mana 9/9 with a real good effect, and I just don't know like, Hunter has had such tight lists where every single 30 of those cards matter and there is zero fat on those decks. You can't slice off a single card.
I mean,
and
a
now
lot
Swamp
of
King
people,
Dread.
yeah, they always play that extra beast besides the King Crush. Some people play the one of high main. Some people play the Devil Soar, the 7/7 Charger when it does get pulled out for free. And some people prefer the Swamp King Dread. And I could have sworn that Ostkaka said that he didn't think Swamp King Dread was good yesterday. I thought he was a bigger fan of the Devil Soar. But here he is, and it's a 9/9. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Swamp King Dread is not push 7 when it comes into play.
But it stops your opponent from playing every single card.
Except poisonous minions.
Exactly. I doubt that we're going to see that blowout this game, but Xixo with truly not a strong start. He had to play that deckhand on 1, which is really not what you're looking for. You're really hoping for something like the Dire Mole or the Argent Squire, the Crystallizer, if you do happen to play that for another Dire Mole-like card. But just with the 1 HP minion, just got absolutely blown away by the candle shot, and now Ostkaka gets the play from ahead, which Odrogue does not want to be the one answering in this point of the game.
Yeah, Odrogue definitely wants to start off a lot stronger than that. Like, Argent Squire is, like, you know, obviously a lot better of a 1-drop to play on its own, but especially against Hunter, who more often than not is going to have that candle shot, and candle shot is just so good against these kind of decks. Ostkaka hitting into the 4-3, just in case Xixo decides to trade into the 5-5, which I'm pretty sure he will, just because, ooh, I take it back.
Going face.
He saw the chalkboard.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
I don't know how I feel about it.
And this is actually going to get punished pretty bad.
Real
bad.
The
play was looking like Grizzly, but with a flanking strike going off the top, pairing that along with that candle shot, I think that lines up pretty good to kill this 4 HP minion here.
Yeah, I can understand where Xixo's head at going face there, just because he has the Fungal Mancer in hand, and obviously you would rather have 2 minions than 1 minion. But it's just so likely, I feel like, that the Henge Clan Thug, or at least one of these minions, dies. And so I think the likelihood that you get a Fungal Mancer on 2 minions is so low that I think you just need to fight for board. And
I mean, just look at what Xixo's working with, besides this Meyer, is he has a Void Ripper, which he just can't play, because that just makes his opponent a 5/5.
The worst
I
card
don't think that's that good for 3 mana. He has a Leroy, which, you know, promotes going face, and he has the Fungal, which you said, you know, this can sometimes lead to hitting it too, but I think it's always going to be the case that if Ostkaka did not have this flanking strike to kill the minion, he would have just traded the 5/5 right there.
That's what I really like about cards like Void Ripper, is that historically, like, Blizzard has printed cards that are just, like, clearly good, and then, like, Blood Knight, for example. It's like, you play that into a Giggling Invader, it's just good. But for 3 mana, 3/3, like, yeah, there's worse things. Void Ripper, traditionally, has been in the game as a counter to Spreading Plague. And it's just always been good against Spreading Plague, and then, it's a 3/3 on its own. But now this is, like, a tech card that is not only just not average, it is far below average to be played against us in this matchup.
I mean, there's actually some situations where I've seen people Void Rip on curve to then kill the 5/5, because if you can deal with both parts in the same turn, that ends up being pretty good. But when you're behind on the board, you can't really afford to give them the 5/5.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and give them the 5/5, because their hand could very easily be play dead, Terror Scale, and they're going to have a lot more 5/5. So you're like, all right, you can have the 1. That's where I'm drawing the line.
And we see that Xixo finally finds that Vile Spine Slayer, which is really what he's going to need to be his swing turn in this matchup. He's not really able to turn the corner just yet. He doesn't have a great target to play at this turn. He actually doesn't really have a great way to develop either.
Yeah, this is a real awkward turn. If he had 1 more mana, he could do like a Void Ripper, kill the egg, coin Vile Spine, kill the 5/5.
And we could also just see with Ostkaka's hand, with each turn this game goes longer, he's just going to have those threats to play in the late game. Also just the fact that his board is just so strong right now. That Defender of Argus was so key in taunting up that egg, threatening the 5/5 if it does die.
Kind of glad Defender of Argus has made a comeback. I think when I first started playing Hearthstone, I think that was probably my favorite card, just because it was just like solid stats, and it's basically kind of like what Fungal Mancer is in the meta right now. You just play it, just solid stats, and now it's just like they printed Fungal Mancer, and it's like, I'd just rather play that.
That thing used to be the Arena Master. You would just buff it up, get some value trades. Used to be a 3/3, I believe. Way back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that. Whew. Talk about giggling Inventor Nurse. Let's bring back Defender of Argus. floating a whole lot of mana, having to waste the coin just to proc the Bile Spine. Myra's going to be another turn, at least.
Yeah, and after seeing a Vile Spine Slayer, I think that gives you the green light to say it's Swamp King Dread time.
It's pretty good. He has 7 mana and he played a 9/9. I'm a fan. Swamp King Dread's on Team Good.
I gotta assume that Xixo does not have a poisonous minion in this deck, because usually don't play poisonous minions in your Odd Rogue.
Usually they're pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Pretty understated, pretty underwhelming usually. The only time you rarely ever see poisonous and constructed is as the hunter and you're building beasts. And then sometimes you get a last minute poisonous, boat flat, and then, you know, clear the board.
But man, Xixo really is just not working with anything. This Leroy is not even enough to kill it. If you potentially could have paired the Leroy with the Void Ripper, but he's 1 mana off doing that, and Xixo's just going to dip out of the game.
Not even going to Myra's.
Man.
Don't know how I feel about that.
And you see him laughing a little bit. Sometimes you go to a series, and when you have 2 games right off the bat like that, it's rough. And you have to now just be thinking, I can't get tilted. You got to just stay calm.
Scalebane doesn't die to Dragonfire Potion, but with Dragonfire Potion leaving, the meta was getting a little bit faster. Cobalt Scalebane was kind of just a liability in a lot of decks, but Xixo's bringing it back. And you can see right there maybe why it's not in the meta anymore.
Oh, yeah. And Ostkaka did go for the Odd Rogue. When he was talking to lineups about Muzzy last night, Muzzy was pretty sold on Miracle Rogue, and Muzzy said, I'm playing Miracle Rogue, it's sweet. And then Ostkaka was like, all right, I'll copy your lineup, but I'll play Odd Rogue. And then right before deck submission, Muzzy apparently messaged Ostkaka, give me the Odd Rogue list.
Give me the Odd Rogue.
So Muzzy, despite wanting to go with the Miracle Rogue, backed out and went with the Odd Rogue last second. Just why would you draw all these cards and make all these 4/4s when you could just kill people?
Or you could just play the quest and make your entire deck 4/4s instead of having to draw them.
Nah, that's awful.
That's on Team Bad.
No one likes that.
You don't like that. I can name 3 people right now that really like that. And they lost last round because they brought it.
It's okay, Rage.
We still love you, buddy.
But now we see again just Odd Rogue struggle to find that 1-drop that they're looking for. They don't really are happy. They're never happy playing that deckhand on 1. It just dies so easily. But if this, say, was just that Dire Mole or the Ardent Squire, you'd be able to use your dagger to then go for that trade and just keep it on board. And we see that Ostkaka is going for that Crystallizer to just have another Dire Mole in the deck.
Yeah, I was looking at Ostkaka's deck. 8 1-drops, including the deckhand. And so picking up the Crystallizer a turn too late. I actually really like Crystallizer. It's a 1/3, deals 5 damage to you and gives you 5 armor.
It's almost always just strictly worse than a Dire Mole, but sometimes you find situations against, say, Alex Straza where it could be a little bit better. But in most situations, it's just a Dire Mole that you can't play if you're below 5 HP because it does kill you. The armor does not save you in that situation.
I mean, to be fair, if you are in a situation where you have Crystallizer in hand and it's your only play and you're at 5 HP, you're probably losing that game anyway.
I mean, sometimes you find spots where, say, Crystallizer would have activated a Vile Spine Slayer, and then you can't do that for the win.
True.
But it is very rare. So I'm actually going to go for that Coin Hench Clan Thug, knowing that the only real answer from Zoo here would be that Soulfire.
I got a answer that's, kind of also pretty good. It's free 3/3s for 0 mana.
But a lot of times just in this matchup, just that 2/2 dagger goes such a long way that it makes Odd Rogue so favored. I remember that Ostkaka was actually showing me a game yesterday that he played against, I believe it was Hoy, who got 2 Happy Ghouls on turn 1, and he still won the game just because that 2/2 dagger is so good.
It upgrades, essentially, it's a Fiery War Axe. It's 1 stat short of being a Fiery War Axe, which got nerfed. And you can still get it for 2 as Rogue. That's how good that dagger is. It's going to upgrade the Hench Clan Thug if he chooses to do that now. He can go for the protection option and play the Tar Creeper. It's a really hard decision. You got to decide whether you're going to go for the Smork Race or you're going to fight for board. Zoo, really hard to fight for board against just because they do have that life tap, so they're going to be playing essentially twice as much as you are every turn. At the same time, Ostkaka's got that dagger we were talking about.
Yeah, I think this turn's pretty interesting. I think you're going to dagger in a lot of the situations, and then the question is, do you hold this Crystallizer if you play it? If you do play it and he takes the value trade, you have the dagger to clean up that 3/2, or you can just keep it in the hand to then guarantee have a pair with that SI agent. Could also just be thinking, Tar Creeper does protect pretty well, but I think there's a lot of strength in just having that 1 HP minion here. There's no real way for Zoo to punish that until they get to that Dreadlord turn, and being on 4 mana, I think this is the time to just take the trade. But Ostkaka just going to hide it behind the Hench Clan Thug. I mean, hide it behind the Tar Creeper, and he didn't see the Soulfire come out last turn, which would then, again, would be the punish. So that could be the reason that he just tries to hide it this turn.
And we are a turn away from the big punish, which would be Fungalmancer. So if this was turn 4, I would say this is an awful play. You shouldn't have done it, because the Fungalmancer would just come down and destroy your board. But it's turn 4, so there's really not a whole lot of punishes in the book right now. And Ostkaka, I think, also recognizes that, like, his deck, we were talking about how many 1-drops he has. With the if we're including the Cold Bloods, there are 8 more 1-drops in the deck that could combo with the SI, and he did not get it. And so I think holding back that 1-drop, because I don't want to go for a 25% out to be able to play my SI agent.
All right.
And so I really like holding back the 1-drop, SIing. Unfortunately, you know, SI can't kill anything on its own, but comboed with the Tar Creeper, we're going to be able to push through one of these Serenites.
Now I think it just gets a little bit awkward now if you go for that trade with the Hench Clan Thug. Having that minion die to the Despicable Dreadlord this turn, when they can play it, just would feel pretty bad. And I really like Ostkaka just holding back the attacks there. You never want to trade 2 3/3s into a Tar Creeper. That's giving it way too much value, especially when you could, say, find that Fungalmancer off the top or the Soulfire to deal with it a little bit cleaner. You just can't give your opponent that much value at this point in the game.
Ostkaka with a similar situation to Xixo last game, where as the Odd Rogue, he just had kind of a weird hand. Kind of clunky. The Void Ripper's kind of just not doing a whole lot. Crystallizer SI Agent, it's not very efficient. You got the Baku in hand. You might have to play Myra's on curve.
Yeah, I mean, it's the case that a lot of time as Odd Rogue, you end up mulliganing all your cards because of how important finding that good 1-drop is. And both games, they just not found it.
There's that Soulfire we were talking about.
And that is always the card that Zoo is looking for to then try and deal with this Odd Rogue. Because they just need to get pretty far ahead on tempo to then not lose to swing turns like Vile Spine Slayer.
How do we organize our hand right now so the Soulfire does the least amount of damage? Do we go wide with the 1-drops, play the Soulfire? But at the same time, Serenite Chain Gang's on the far left of the hand, and when that's over there, I kind of want to keep it in hand, so when I pick up that +2/+2, I get a big old Chain Gang.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much of a defensive play that Xixo is going to go for. He's always going to use the Soulfire this turn, but what is he doing with the rest of his minions? And he wants to make sure that he's guaranteeing to have that Chain Gang. And this does just make the board pretty awkward for Ostkaka.
Also really like the value trade here, because even if this Hench Clan does get buffed up to a 4/2, it's still going to just trade into a 2/3 and die. So I'm of the philosophy, why make trades that your opponent's going to make for you?
Yeah, and it is the case where I feel like Void Ripper after the trade would line up a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
Then he kills all the minions.
Void Ripper coming in
never
clutch.
Mind. I didn't even realize that the buff up would be able to kill it with the Hench Clan Thug. So this definitely makes a lot more sense, playing that Void Ripper first, besides taking that trade.
Real good spot by Ostkaka. Void Ripper kind of sometimes hard to, because you're just so hyper-focused on putting that in your deck just to beat Spreading Plague that you don't really recognize that there are some situations where it's just good, like there. But you know what else is good?
was just so good for Xixo. Finding Prince Kaliseth, which everybody knows that's probably just the best card in the game when you have it. It's just, the whole buffs, and then hitting the double imp in the same turn.
Doubling imp is real good. Serenite Chain Gang, but even better, because it's 3 mana, and you got to be able to play it this turn. Who needs Soul Infusion when you got Prince Kaliseth?
It's just another game where, imagine if you didn't have the Myras here, you just get so grinded out, but now being able to draw all those cards, you don't really care about the fatigue too much. You're going to take a little bit of damage on the backswing, but I think just Ostkaka not finding a single copy of Vile Spine Slayer, just,
Again, Ostkaka also running the Cobalt Scalebane. I'm seeing a trend here, or is this kind of just an anomaly? I don't personally like the card. I feel like the top end's just already so clunky.
I think it's in there because it's a very, very good card against Malagos Druid. Being able to take one of your Dire Moles and just, say, buff it up to a 4/3 is a great way to just beat them down. It's a card that they don't really want to ignore. So if you could, say, make them not nourish on 5 and have to deal with that Cobalt Scalebane.
Kill Spreading Plague on its own. I can understand. So I think the mindset therein is they knew Mali Druid was going to be a thing. But at the
now
same time,
Solarium
Xixo,
off the top after finding that Prince Keleseth.
there's the Dreadlord we were talking about. Ooh, but a Doomguard. What are we going for here?
I just like playing the minions, playing Kobold Librarian, going for that Doomguard. Just put as much stats as possible on the board. And now you're in the position again where just going face does matter because we are now in fatigue for the Odd Rogue.
So hear me out, Bob. I prefer the Dreadlord here over the Doomguard.
Yeah,
Because
Xixo does too.
your opponent just played Myra's. And statistically, there is a good chance that Bilespine's in the hand. So, knowing that, I think the Dreadlord is going to do more in this scenario on the assumption that it's just going to die immediately next turn. And I think he's prioritizing having another body and killing the 3-1 over pushing another 6 damage.
6 damage is a lot, though, especially when fatigue starts to tick. But he just wants to put him in a spot where he's not getting too blown up out Vile Spine Slayer. And now Xixo, once he sees that that's not going to be the answer this turn, that it's very likely that there's none in the hand. And Ostkaka, realizing that, is going to concede right there.
Pit Lord, not the card he was looking for.
And Odd Rogue is just 0-3 this series, or maybe only 0-2.
0-2, I think.
The casting decided, I'm going to play in the tournament, and I'm going to play an Odd Warrior mirror, and it's going to take forever.
Classic Dr. J. It's making the tournament a nightmare for everyone else.
And that's why they usually have him up on the desk, to prevent him from making
it's the only
rounds
reason.
incredibly long.
Speaking of incredibly long, no Serenite Chain Gang in the opening hand for Xixo. But I do see a Sea Giant. Are enough minions getting played in this matchup to, verify the decision that Sea Giant's an okay keep?
I really don't think so. A lot of times it's so good in matchups like, say, Odd Paladin, but Odd Rogue is not really flooding the board. They're not going that wide. They're just playing a single minion per turn, and Xixo realizes that, just going to pitch it. And also, you can't really keep Knife Juggler when your opponent just has access to the dagger, which just straight up kills it. And I'm going to be a little bit curious. Does he run the Lifesteal minion in this deck for the Corpse Taker?
He does run one Scalehide.
Okay.
And so that's going to be the lifesteal that he's probably looking for. He does run Alec here, so no Stormwatcher, unfortunately. I do like Stormwatcher a lot.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
But Alec here is just, I believe the term is strictly better.
Don't say that.
I'm sorry, Stormwatcher, but you need to step your game up. Speaking of bad rolls, 1-1 into a 1-2 is not what he was looking for at all.
Nah, for sure. And this is the point where you really wish you had... What's the name of the 2/3 that shoots? That card's like the best card in Even Shaman.
The eel.
Yeah, the eel. Yeah, there you go. Merc Spark
Zaps.
Eel. That is just by far your best tool to deal with aggro in the early game. And although he didn't have it, making this 2/4 totem does line up pretty well for him, especially that he could follow this up with the Flame Tongue totem and another hero power.
Yeah, opting to go for the 2/4 over coining out the Corpse Taker. Really curious as to how that's going to play out, just because Ostkaka's hand is looking pretty good right now. All the 3s he could ever want. So SI Agent to fight for board. He can choose to snowball the Hench Clan Thug or the Vicious Fledgling at this point, because Reach is really hard to come by in this deck. The only Reach is really the Fire Elementals and the Zappy Eel, as we just discussed. So, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but the Flame Tongue is going to clear up this 4/4 real nice.
Yeah, I mean, these are two decks that really do not want to play from behind ever. The only real tool for Xixo to come back in a game is just using this Kalamos. And he does have, say, the Fire Elementals before it, so maybe he could play a little bit of a longer game, but you really want to fight for that early game board. It's just so crucial to try and be able to win it.
Yeah, these next few turns are really going to decide who's going to be able to take over the game. The Cold Blood is going to clear up the Flame Tongue real nicely. SI Agent in the hand to, reach if you really wanted to. Fungal Mancer's coming down next turn to help push through this Corpse Taker. There's the eel we were talking about.
Yeah, and I think that was
Not
a perfect
bad.
pickup, especially when there's a 5-1 on the board. The downside will be that he will get clocked by this Vicious Scalehide, so maybe that could be the potential upside. But you know that even if you do play this Corpse Taker, you can just use that dagger and the Flame Elemental to then push this Vicious Scalehide to face even still.
Fledgling.
That is definitely right.
Yeah, those are two different cards.
But they're both vicious.
They are both vicious. One looks a lot more vicious than the other one, though. Because if you look at Vicious Fledgling right now, it's like he's almost smiling.
What sound is he making right now? Nice.
That's a bird, right?
I'm real proud of you for that
I saw
one, buddy.
Jurassic Park.
He's straight out of it.
Straight out of Ungoro. I want that album.
Not with
Ben
Ben Brode
Brode.
anymore. He's gone.
Please. I'm going to make that shirt.
So,
Anyways,
is this ever the
Fungalmancer.
case where you just Fungalmancer just this to then hope for Wind Fury? Skaka's just doing it.
That's the world champ attitude I like to see
Do world champions get Wind Fury?
always.
I'm not
He's
convinced.
taking a while to pick it.
You don't pick this long if it's Wind Fury. A lot of times, if Wind
The
Fury
world champ
is offered, you're picking
knows.
that pretty much as fast as you can.
Divine Shield, pretty good.
Wow, and Xixo actually has so much late game in his hand.
That's actually insane. Sea Giant's going down to 4. Fire Elemental into Calamos is going to be the next couple of turns.
Yeah, I just got done saying that, even Shaman doesn't come back on board well, but then he just has literally every single tool that
come
comes
back
back on board in his hand. Both Fire Elementals, both damage, 3 damage AoE.
Yeah, the Calamos can do 3 damage. It can heal. It can make a board. Hagatha, known for clearing up. This is just like, especially because the Fungalmancer's already gone, and so it's very likely that the health total of this board is not going to get that much higher than what it is currently. And so the Hagatha is going to do a lot of work if the Fire Elementals don't do work first. Clearing off a Vicious Fledgling. No Vilespine in the hand. Cobalt Scalebane maybe can help fight back, but
We've seen every single game just Odd Rogue have Myras and then still just not get there. And if Ostkaka can't win this game, then it's going to be Odd Rogue Mirror, and then it's going to be forced to win. But it'd be a little bit funny if Odd Rogue cannot beat a single deck that isn't itself.
is every single series just going to come down to who can win the Odd Rogue Mirror because it can't win any? I want to see the win
I mean, we
percentage
did
of
see
Odd
that,
Rogue at the
just
end of the
saying,
tournament.
Beat Ant when he was playing Odd Warrior, and that's a matchup that's really tough, and Sam was able to find the win even in that.
To be fair, it is just saying.
That guy's winning.
That man
He's also
is
going to BlizzCon. Oh, not BlizzCon.
Worlds.
Worlds, of course.
He's pretty good at Hearthstone.
Gotta remember that they're separate events now.
Unfortunately. It just like, it felt good saying like, I'm going to BlizzCon. Now it's like, I'm going to a
Worlds.
undisclosed location.
Still will be very sweet, though. And Ostkaka is going low on life, but this board does survive both Hagatha and Calamos. But one of the things Xixo can do is just play both of them, one after the other.
He could. Definitely going to have to play the Calamos first if he's going to go with that route. The
What
other
about just
route-
making 1/1s here? Is that ever good? Of course you're afraid of dying,
Of course you're afraid.
but yeah, I guess you're afraid of dying. You
Yeah.
should probably use that Hex in the Chain Gang.
I didn't know we were getting philosophical on the desk, Bob.
But I like just killing my opponent. But Xixo likes to win. And that's
Ostkaka
pretty
likes
reasonable.
to draw his deck.
Yeah, this is
Vilespine
just the
first off the
third
top.
time this series we are seeing Myra's being cast. And will it just repeat the same pattern that despite drawing your whole deck, it just not being enough?
Vilespines do have the advantage of living through Hagatha if they were to come down next turn.
Yeah, and he did find the Leroy, which is always very important not to get discarded.
And we got a Cold Blood too, so that's really important.
He's got damage.
Yeah, unfortunately we do have both Crystallizers, which looking pretty good against certain decks. This is not one of them.
I mean, it's the same as a Dire Mole here. It's very unlikely that he's going to need to play it when it's below 5.
Ostkaka's at 12 health though.
Yeah, but
We're getting there.
You get the armor.
Not going to get the armor when it kills you first.
That's true.
So, getting there. Xixo's getting there. Sea Giant looking a lot more likely to come out. I don't think he's going to get it low enough to where he can play the Sea Giant and Hagatha.
You know, Ostkaka finding that line that he does not want to take any more damage, so he's not going to punch with that dagger this turn. Finding that Cold Blood on the Cobalt Scalebane, knowing that it will not die to any of Xixo's AoE options. So this just makes a lot of sense. And now with that Calamos no longer active, it's going to be just forcing Xixo in that situation that he just needs to play the Agatha here.
Yeah, I'm a little curious because I do like the play Xixo went with, but if you know your deck list well enough, you know that there aren't that many elements actually in the deck, surprisingly, considering he's running Calamos. Because I think the only other cards in the deck that are elementals is the Alakir, and that's all I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
And so even if he drew another elemental, it would have taken up his entire turn. It would likely have been a bad play. And that's only to activate the Calamos. So I don't think Calamos is going to be active for quite a while.
And Ostkaka is 2 damage off lethal here, and I don't think there's anything to find from Blink Fox, because then he would need it to be 4 damage instance to be able to play with the Leroy, which I just... Oh, maybe Wind Fury was the only out. Wind Fury would have worked with the Leroy. But finding Stonehill Sentinel, Ostkaka's still going to try and find that line to try and set up lethal through another AoE.
Xixo does currently not have... Spine's not an elemental, right?
Nope.
Okay. I'm just wondering if Ostkaka has any elementals in the... I was going to say in the deck. He does have the Fireflies, but they were sent to a faraway place because Mara sent it to another dimension.
All right, Hagatha, you got to be good here. This Lich King is not good enough on the board. Xixo's going to have to play this Vicious Scalehide and hope for something like a Volcano or a Lightning Storm. But even if he gets that, even if he gets the full board clear, we see that Ostkaka, with that Leroy in hand, will be able to pair with that dagger to close out this game.
What could... I'm trying to think of a possible combination because he can't play the Argent Commander and Vicious Scalehide and Lightning Storm.
That's what I was saying. Vicious Scalehide would give him that 1 damage healing to survive the Leroy dagger.
I found me out.
He just gets Volcano or Lightning Storm.
Argent Commander, we're going face, we're getting Lava Burst.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, it was red. I was so excited. I think I stepped on something.
It's okay, hopefully.
It's all good.
But yeah, Xixo going to go for that line that he was hoping for lethal rather than going for that defensive play. Because it was the case that a lot of times he will have a damage instance that, besides this Leroy, say another Deckhand or an SI to clean out the game.
He was so close, Bob. He was so close. I'm real sad right now. The game just teased me. Showed me the red card. I was so close to calling it. Xixo was so close to taking this to the next game, but Ostkaka is going to take it in 4, taking it 3-1.
And
Odd Rogue losing.
It was struggling, but that game, the Myers Unstable Portal...
Right about now.